Sometimes they're not just catching the bad guys, but they're helping the good guys. This is Crime Watch. Hello and welcome to Crime Watch. I'm Jane Cameron with Sergeant Bill Kohanek of the Buena Park Police Department. Sergeant Kohanek, we're at the T-Mobile near Target, and it seems like we've been here quite often. Is this a problem store or operation?
Well, I wouldn't like to give this particular store any bad press, but there is a significant amount of serious crimes that occur at this store, and it's because of the value and the demand of modern telephones. It's one of the few telephone stores in our city, so it's not uncommon to have crimes here. In fact, we just had an armed robbery here a couple nights ago.
So we've got a lot of police cars here. There's some people sitting on the curb. What's going on?
We'd put this call in the category of suspicious circumstance. We still don't really yet know what the scam was, if at all. But these folks behind us who've been detained found a local homeless person and asked them to use all of his identity to come here and buy telephones for him. They have a large amount of cash on them and in their vehicle, and one of them is on parole for previous crime charges. So we don't know exactly what their scam is or what they were going to do with this person's identity, but essentially they're using someone else's identity to try and buy phones. We don't quite yet haven't got it figured out, but our officers are on the case and they'll try to get to the bottom of it.
How did the Buena Park Police Department hear about this situation?
It was actually from the person who called us. The reporting person in this case was the homeless person, and he just felt very suspicious about the questions that these folks were asking him. He also was concerned that there was a weapon on the male subject. Evidently, it proves that we have not yet located a weapon, and we've been allowed to search the car and search him. So it might have just added to the fear of the reporting person in this case, but he was afraid that these people had a gun, and he was afraid of what they were offering him to do.
You know, it's interesting because this brings up an important part of the whole story, is that just because someone's homeless doesn't mean they're not intelligent, know what's right and wrong, and don't want to be taken advantage of in society.
That can be true, absolutely. Their identity can be stolen just like anyone else's, and harm could be done to them. So obviously, takes all kinds, and maybe the homeless folks are easy to prey on. To get some information from them, $20 to them, which is what he was offered for in this transaction, might have been a big deal. But it sounds like his judgment got the better of him and was able to call us secretly and get us out here and stop it before it got out of hand.
dangerous being on the freeway off-ramp.
It is. It's a scary place. In fact, I had a close encounter myself as a young officer on this off-ramp. It was actually configured a little differently, but I had a near disaster myself. So you're right. I have a big appreciation for freeways and off-ramps, and know that it's just a totally different game at those high speeds than it is on our own roads.
So we have a car that's broken down here right at the base of the off-ramp.
Yeah, this was a disabled vehicle. It looked like a radiator hose blew off of the vehicle and probably caused a lot of steam and a lot of water pressure. And it was probably a little scary for the driver. So she was able to stop the vehicle and get the hood up, but did leave it there in the intersection.
So what is the point of putting the police car behind her car?
Oh, we're just trying to give some warning for the oncoming vehicles. I think all of our viewers know what it's like to see an officer. You can usually see a police car off to the side of the road.
Hopefully.
Sometimes miles away.
Hopefully.
Yeah, of course, it's hopefully. But for the majority of the time, our lights are extremely bright. We have a very strong LED light system, and they're designed to give as much warning as possible to oncoming traffic. So I'm simply just trying to give a buffer for the vehicles exiting the roadway.
It's interesting to see the cars come around this turn because some drivers don't look forward, they're just looking immediately in front of them, and they come whipping around this turn, then all of a sudden you see the brakes hit because they know they shouldn't run into a police car.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good for any of us, but you're right. I think you should be able to look forward, to your peripheral vision when you're on a roadway, when you're driving a vehicle. You need to use all your senses to try and see hazards in the roadway, like the hazard that's here. I'd rather have the police car with the flashing blue and red lights instead of just a vehicle that kind of blends in with the rest of the roadway here.
Give me a little idea as to if a car breaks down in a roadway, is it better to be in the car, next to the car, on the side like we are now? Where is the best place to be?
If you've decided to leave a vehicle or you're stuck in the middle of a roadway, by all means, the best thing to do is to activate the hazard lights and then exit the roadway completely. Get off onto the curb and the side of the road. It's especially imperative to do that on the freeway. If you're given that opportunity to exit the vehicle and get off the freeway, you're much better chance of avoiding being struck from oncoming traffic that doesn't hit you. In this case, or in a case on the freeway, sometimes vehicles break down or are in accidents. One good thing to do is to climb over the center divider, so you have the divider protecting you for any oncoming traffic or a possible traffic accident. But in this case, you have a side of the roadway just feet away, that's safety, and that's where I'd like them to stand.
So they are there and you're right behind them, just making sure that they're going to be safe until they can move their car away.
Yeah, these young ladies called their father out for some assistance. We had some options here as the handling officer. We could have pushed the vehicle out of the roadway or called AAA or a towing service for them. But once we get here, we're kind of stuck here with the scene. We've accepted some liability. It would not be good of us to leave and leave them unprotected after we've already been here.
And in the meantime, I'm sure they don't want to stay there forever, so they're going to move as quickly as they can.
No, they were happy to get a little bit of help from both Dad and ourselves, and I think they'll be on their way shortly.
You know, it's the favorite time of the year for me. It's shopping season.
I would like to say we're in a winter wonderland because I don't want to shop, but it's sure nice being out here.
It is, and it's interesting that as the holiday comes around, there's an excitement in the air, but there's also sometimes too many opportunities for victims of crime.
Victims are aplenty during the holiday season, unfortunately. You're right, there are a lot more bad guys come out and try to take advantage of people during this time of year. It often involves some type of burglary or a scam of some type. When people are most generous at this time of the year, sometimes people are in a rush or maybe a little bit forgetful and make themselves a more easy target, and we're hoping to avoid that.
Well, let's talk about my favorite thing, shopping, and how do you stay safe during the holidays so that you're not taken advantage of?
I think your best bet is to protect your belongings, particularly in your vehicle. When you go from store to store to store or shopping mall to shopping mall, you often leave your presence unattended in your vehicle. And those can be an easy target. Even if someone has a good alarm system or they park in a good, well-lit area, suspects will target that vehicle relatively quickly. It might be a best idea to try to put any gifts or packages into the trunk of the vehicle so that they're not seen.
What about, though, if you're shopping and your hands are full? Can you go out, load some stuff in the car, then go back shopping?
You can, but you do make yourself a little bit easier of a target by doing so. Suspects hide out in parking lots and watch for an opportunity to arise, and that usually is that unsuspecting person who just made a bunch of purchases who runs back into the store again. As long as you don't leave those presents out in the open is the best thing. Again, lock them in the trunk. There's also an option of ordering as much as you can online and having them delivered to your house. However, that's just another form of theft that occurs. Some suspects will literally follow around a UPS or mail trucks and watch where they make deliveries. Sometimes they leave those deliveries on the front porch, and a suspect will wait and see if anybody picks it up. If not, they'll help themselves.
It's scary because this is the time where you want to give, you don't want to be taken, and yet that seems to happen. So what other things can people do just to make sure that they're safe during the holidays?
Mostly just be aware of your surroundings and harden the target. It's kind of the same thing we talk about when it comes to your home protection and your vehicle protection, is just being aware of what the current crime trends are. By watching CrimeWatch is one thing, because we are always talking about the most common ways that vehicles are getting broken into and what is being stolen. So just be aware of what it is that's being stolen. Obviously, if you're going to have high-end electronics, small-end items like PlayStations and Wiis, don't leave those in your vehicle. Make sure you get them home. Make sure the house is locked up every time you leave.
And the windows and drapes are closed?
Yes, you want to try and privatize your residence as much as possible. And again, make that target a little bit harder for the suspects to get into.
I have a suggestion. Gift cards in large denominations.
To Jane Cameron?
Yeah, sure.
Gotcha. That's a good idea as well. That way gives some freedom for folks to
get more,
to use their own judgment on what they purchase.
So, but in the meantime, people just need to be able to enjoy the holidays, right?
That's the best thing. You're right. Don't be afraid of the holidays, because they are a joyous season. Do continue to give and share with others. However, watch your pocketbook.
In talking about holiday safety, one of the things that I'm concerned about is the fact that there are a lot of people that go to their work parties and maybe they have a little bit too much to drink and they're on the street driving their car while I'm driving mine. And I'm wondering if they're going to be hitting me.
DUI driving under the influence, is one of the biggest tragedies that we deal with in law enforcement. I think just a couple days ago was highlighted about a woman who had struck a pedestrian, and he had been embedded in the windshield of the car, and she drove on for almost 2 miles with him being stuck in the windshield of his car, and he died tragically. But Buena Park has suffered some tragedies as well that have been DUI related. So you're right, it is a big problem, and it affects all of us.
On situations, like this where, the officers will catch someone drunk driving, what happens to that driver who is under the influence?
Well, the most obvious is the actual physical arrest. Someone is going to get arrested. They're going to have handcuffs placed on them. They are going to go to jail, and their car is probably going to go to jail as well, depending upon where it's parked. From that point on, they're given a citation to appear in court. It's a misdemeanor violation for a first offense. Can lead to a felony offense if they've had up to 3 previous DUI encounters. Well, we'll retain them until they sober up, and we'll allow them to go on a ticket. But we even take their driver's license from them. We confiscate it and send it to the DMV. It'll be up to them to try and get their license back through a DMV hearing. If they don't try that, their license will be suspended approximately a month from the date of the citation, and it could be for up to a year. So a loss of their driving privilege, their insurance is going to climb considerably. They're going to have to pay very large fees for the fines involved in DUI, and for an attorney and the loss of their license. It's a very expensive encounter. They say it could be up to $10,000.
What amazes me is that it just doesn't seem like you have to drink that much in order to be considered under the influence.
That's always different with everyone, Jane. It could be a younger female could be completely different in her sobriety or intoxication level than an adult male who's 40 pounds and 250 pounds, 40 years old, 250 pounds. So, it really does vary. You have to know your own body. You have to know what you're capable of. But more importantly, you need to pre-plan. You just need to call a designated driver, pay for that taxi. That $20 or $30 taxi fee is going to be nothing compared to what could happen in a DUI arrest. Not to mention the accident. It wasn't too long ago that Buena Park lost a father and son in a horrific accident near the holidays. That is the type of fine that will stay with you forever, and you can't overcome that.
And how sad, too, when it's really resulting from someone that was just trying to have a good time.
Ultimately, it was. Typically, it's, the average person who doesn't drink too often, but maybe around the holidays, they go to that office party or spend holidays, a little bit too hard at a local establishment that serves alcohol, and they just lose their good sense. And their good sense is to either stop drinking or to put the keys away and convince yourself that you're not going to drive anywhere.
Real quickly, because I know we could talk about this for hours, what exactly does alcohol do to your ability to drive?
Well, the most obvious is that it affects your motor skills and your judgment. They're very often your senses and your reaction time slows down considerably. Where you or I see an incident up ahead, we're able to react in a split second and begin to apply brakes, plan for an escape route around the problem. And a DUI driver typically loses those senses, those common senses, and they take much longer to react, much longer to apply their brakes. They often fall asleep when it comes to driving, or lose a sense of direction. It's not uncommon. We'll stop a drunk driver and they think they're in a city far, far away, not even realizing where they're at. And it shocks me at how many of them somehow actually make it home.
And without hurting anybody or causing any property damage and just getting safe in their bed.
And unfortunately, that gives them that impression that they now all of a sudden are immune and that they have that ability to make it home on their own. They don't have that sense of fear or a warning that you should have.
Do you find most people that are caught drunk driving, maybe not immediately, but down the road, they realize that they thought they were okay and they thought they would be all right driving, and they found out the hard way that they weren't?
Absolutely. It's very common that when you arrest someone for drunk driving, they maybe feel a little buzzed, and they think that as a euphoric feeling, an enjoyable feeling. But in fact, it's their senses are, in confusion, and they're not aware of where a line starts and where a line stops, and how to keep their motor skills about them. They call it buzz driving, but it is still drunk driving, and it's not uncommon. When you feel a buzz, it means you're drunk, and that's the bottom line. And when you're drunk, you cannot safely operate a vehicle. I don't care how good you think you are or how many times you've gotten away with it. No one is immune to the sense of what alcohol or other drugs will give to you.
If you have any questions about tonight's show, you can call the Buena Park Police Department at 562-3901 or check them out on the web at bppd.com. With Sergeant Bill Kohanek of the Buena Park Police Department, be safe and enjoy the holidays. Thanks for watching.
Be sure to like us on the official City of Buena Park Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. There you'll find a little of everything from information about our city services and upcoming events to discounts offered by our entertainment attractions such as Knott's Berry Farm, Medieval Times, and Pirates Dinner Adventure.